Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Prairie Podcast. My name is Andrew Weeb, and it's a pleasure to have you with us today. It's been a while since we've released an episode, but we're excited with the direction that we're going to be heading in these next couple of episodes as we head and step into the next season of the Prairie Podcast. So, no matter who you are, whether you're a student at the college, an alum, a community member, a parent of a student, prospective student, or someone who just found this podcast by accident, no matter who you are, we are excited to have you with us today. As our president, Mark Maxwell, and we're going to be talking about some of the myths and the fears that we can believe in our work and our leadership, but the truths that counteract it, the truths that God has given us, and the truths of just experience and the experience that Mark has had here at Prairie, before Prairie, and continuing onward. And so, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Mark. Why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, and we'll continue from there.
Sure. Quick
Yeah.
recap. Who is Mark Maxwell? Born in Nigeria to SIM missionary parents. So I'm an MK. At 18, I came to North America and went to Trinity Western and then Baylor University, undergrad and graduate school. Did 1 year at Prairie, so,
Still got the heritage.
I am an alumni, barely. And then I went into business. So in the investment world, I spent 10 years or so on the investment banking side and then 10 years or longer on the investment management side. Built a couple firms. They were, you could say, Cinderella stories. I like to put it that God tipped his beaker to give us blessing and see what happened, and it was amazing. Sold those two built a company with a partner, sold it, built another company with 3 partners. It was listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange, and so it was easy to exit. I exited there when my wife said she'd like to see a little more of me, and I thought, wow, my wife wants to see me. That's a good thing, right? And so we were able to find someone who would look after the company at that point quite easily. It was a decent-sized company by then. Went home, built another company. We still have it. And about 8 years later after that, the board at Prairie asked if I would step off the board. They probably just wanted to get me out of the room. And if I would roll in and look after the school here. That was in 2010. And I think that's where we're going to pick up our conversation. But it was my wife again, Elaine, who answered, I think, for me. I think she said a couple of things. One, maybe it's time you got in the offering plate instead of just put money in the offering plate. And I'm like, wow, who taught her to preach? And then number 2, she was the one who said, yeah, we should go and look after the school. She agreed to come with me. So that's kind of how we got here.
Wonderful.
The background to it. We have 3 daughters and 5 grandkids. And love them all, and mostly they love us too, so it's a good thing.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thanks for that recap there. It's a wonderful story of God's guidance.
Yeah.
You said tipping his beaker,
Yeah.
The blessings of God in your life and the way that he's transformed you, the way that he's brought you through so much, and now here to lead at the school. Okay, jumping ahead, we'll talk about the middle period as we talk through some of the myths, but I'm curious currently, what does your role entail? What sort of things are you looking after currently right now? What's
At Prairie, right?
At Prairie, yes.
Yeah. My job has transformed from when I first arrived to now. When I first arrived, I was largely putting out fires and building new bonfires that would go in a new direction. And that was very hands-on, every day, long days, team building, culture building, lots of stuff, direction setting. Then I transitioned more to an executive role, shared sort of business between looking after the school, engaging a whole team, and then beginning to look outside and working sort of as an ambassador for the school. More recently, we have put Mark Jonah in as provost. For those of you who are business people and don't know the label provost, it kind of means chief operating officer in a school or in a college. And so he's the chief operating. He now looks after the campus operations, which frees me up entirely for external focus. So I spend I think, 75% of my time externally focused, looking around the world for partners, looking for people who will help fund us,
Mhm.
looking for friends who will do stuff together with us, organizations and donors and that kind of thing, alumni.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so we got the beforehand, we got the present into the future. But I think we want to dip a bit back because you touched on this when you
Yeah.
first showed up. Um, there was kind of like you said, you're putting out a lot of fires. You were changing a lot of direction.
Hmm.
You kind of had to make some bold choices, right? And I don't know. There's a lot that happened in that time, and we've talked about that a little bit. But I'm curious. This kind of ties into one of our myths that we can sometimes believe is that if you're coming in to do that turnaround, you can't be here to do the build up.
Oh, that's a great myth, and and at times it's true. There's this idea that the turnaround people, they're the ones who train wreck the organization. They fire a bunch of people and they get it right sized, and they got all kinds of nice terminology for the guy who comes in to fire everybody. Um, and basically the thesis is that person has a special skill for that time in history, in that company's history or in that school's history, church's history, whichever it is. Number two, there's the idea that um, that's a different skill than it takes to build an organization. Okay, I understand the logic. Three, whoever that is that's done it has just train wrecked their own capital. Nobody trusts them, right?
Yeah.
And now they don't have the internal capital with the rest of the team to build. All they do is fire people.
Hmm.
Okay, I think that is a terrible myth from a very dark place in the universe.
Hmm.
I
How
mean it
so?
that seriously. Number one, if the person who I'll say I'm saying this person, and of course, this is all revisionist history, right?
Yeah.
This is my version of it, and I'm sure there are others. But whoever comes in and starts to get the size to where it should be is the one who understands what the game plan will be for the next chapter and the next chapter. So
Hmm.
whoever comes and does the downsizing had better stay for the rebuild because that person understands how all these different people fit together onto a team that's going to achieve the long-term goal. You don't downsize just for the sake of economics. You downsize for mission. Okay, what do we need to do to achieve our mission?
Hmm.
So I don't know if I really want these numbers in the record, but nonetheless, when we arrived, the first summer when we arrived, we had 186 people on payroll. Okay, we had 250 students. That is almost a 1-to-1 ratio. For those of you who are business people, you're going, man, that is either a fantastic service company or they're going under. We were the latter. We were losing about $1 million a year. That meant I didn't know what we needed as a right size, but I knew we needed to get down to size. So I just began going through each unit, 5, 6 people in this school, and I would just, how many people do we need to do this job? 3. Okay, let's pick the best 3. We weren't necessarily firing 3. We were looking at who are the 3 that will carry us forward in our mission.
Hmm.
And we used 4 C's: character, competence, chemistry, and calling to help us clarify who belonged on the team and who didn't. Calling is the most difficult or the easiest to identify. Calling is you love our work, you love the people you work with, and you love the people we work for. If you don't love it, you're probably not called. And if you do love it, you probably are. You don't have to wait for a lightning bolt or any special sign. You love this business. God has given you that love. And so, character, hard work, competence, good at what you're supposed to do, chemistry, nice around the table. Those were people that we're looking for. We thought of those 3 legs of a stool, the cushion on top. To go the long distance is calling. Okay, so back to that first myth.
Yeah.
We have um, we downsized in 18 months. We didn't have any big Black Friday. We didn't fire everybody all in one day. I didn't know where we were headed. I just knew that we needed to get down to a size where we could be productive and efficient and effective. And so at the end of 18 months, we hit 95 people.
Hmm.
We're still about that same size. That was 15 years ago. But we suddenly had the team that would be the one that would carry the ball forward. These were people who were not workarounds. They were people that would work with you. They were good communicators. They were good chemistry, nice people around the table. Now, the myth that the person has to lay off, who lays off, can't stay for the rebuild, goes like this. This is the best illustration I can think. I love soccer. Grew up,
Hmm.
I don't understand hockey. It doesn't work well on the sand of the deserts. But whoever's doing this, let's choose soccer. Whoever has the spring camp, summer camp, all of a sudden you've got 50 or 100 people who show up for a team that will have 11 on the field and 11 subs, 22. Saying that whoever does the cutting can't stay for the rebuild is like saying the coach that chooses the 22 can't stay for the season. Well,
Hmm.
nobody does that, right? You choose the team and hook out the people that aren't going to be on that team, and you're going to make mistakes on that way. That's fine.
Yep.
But you're still doing your best to pick the right people, and you're more often picking the right people to stay than you are hooking the wrong people out.
Mhm.
So anyway, I think that whoever has done the downsizing has earned the right to stay for the rebuild.
Hmm.
They'd better stay for the rebuild. They're the only one or ones who know how that's going to work. So I think that's, it's a fantastic truth in the industry, like across
Yep.
all of North American industry. It's believed that there are people who do downsizing. These are the train wreckers, and then there are other people who come in and they do the building, and these are the people who spend. No, you want someone who does this and this in balance,
Hmm.
and that's what we did.
I think certainly, and like you mentioned, the person who does that bringing down, they understand the structure far more.
Yep,
And if somebody new comes in, they don't know the history, they don't know what's happening, they might just repeat the same mistakes.
yep.
In the sense that, yeah,
Especially if you're doing this
yep,
on a missional basis.
yep,
These are the people who will help us go forward.
hmm,
And it takes a lot more time to build going forward than it does to do the downsizing.
that's true.
Yeah, anyway.
You know, as you talk about that, I'm thinking of another myth that jumps in, and I think you actually touched on this a little bit, and that's the myth that once you start firing people, they become frightened and
Yeah,
insecure,
yeah, yeah,
right? What
yeah.
are your thoughts on that one?
Um, when I first arrived, I knew there was one person that we needed to get out of the way. And like I was, here less than 2 weeks. Now I'd been on the board and I'd been watching from that perch.
Hmm.
In fact, I'd been chair, so my confessions are all on the table. It was all my fault. Anyway, um, but I said, I think we need to get this person out of here. And my closest advisor on staff turned and said to me, well, if you do that in your first month, you're just going to have a reputation as the person who fires people. Yeah, so, I can't work on my reputation. That is the wrong agenda.
Hmm.
What are people going to think of me? No, just do what you think is right for the mission and let the reputational chips fall where they will. Now, I think my reputation is not that I just fire people. We do. And at first, the first 18 months, it was me. I did almost all the firing, and I didn't fire everybody. Quite a few people chose to, elect out. So they were self-selecting away. They didn't like this structure, or they didn't like this tyrannical one person, I don't know. But after 18 months, we suddenly began to build a leadership team, a management team is what we called it at the time. And our management team took it over. and they wouldn't let me touch their teams. They fired them. And that was great. Now, if they won't let me touch the teams to not fire them, that's a problem, because there are some people that just need to move on. They're not called. Yeah. And or they're not, the 4 C's: character, competence, chemistry. And, the one that's interesting, quite often you'll have people who are competent and hardworking, but prickly. Ooh. Now, those people who are bullies or have other agendas, not on mission, are probably the ones who suck the most out of the rest of the team's energy. They lack the chemistry. They take up a lot of time, they take up a lot of oxygen, and suddenly you're losing momentum on your direction. So you got to deal with those. What was the myth?
That when you fire people,
Yeah.
become insecure,
Yeah.
right?
Let me go back to that one, because I did let someone go. So the first, I did let that person go in the first month, and it wasn't long before my closest advisor said, "I don't think I work well in this situation. I'll hook out." So he elected away. And then I was letting someone go in one department, and it came back to me from that department, from the head of that department. Well, if pretty soon we're all going to be worried about our jobs. Yeah, we probably all should be a little bit. But what I really wanted was for people to be very secure in their jobs. So my confession at the point was, yeah, we should all be worried, including me. If I don't do a good job of right-sizing this thing and getting it on the right track with the help of the board, with the help of the team, two things, then we've got a problem, and they should probably get rid of me. So I am, in truth, worried about my job on almost a daily basis. But I wasn't looking for insecurity. I was looking for great security, because here it is. If you let the right people go, everybody else's job security goes up. And you've heard it in the hallways. Wow, finally someone is dealing with that problem, right? We've all heard it. And it's senior leadership's death by delay, lack of ownership, lack of taking the lead. And it's all about leadership in the end. You've got to get the right people on the bus, to quote Jim Collins, but you've got to get the wrong people off the bus, and then you have to move them around to the right seats. So if you are willing to get the wrong people off, the ones who aren't working, off the bus, everybody who's on the bus is going, whew, we got more room in the bus.
Finally, right?
Yeah. And you can start to raise pay.
Yep.
So that's good too.
That's always a nice bonus.
That's a good bonus.
I hope you guys have been enjoying the first part of Mythbusting with Mark today. We've heard some excellent insights from him, a couple different myths, as well as some truths to counteract that about what God has said, but what we can also observe from our experiences, from Mark's experience. And I hope you've enjoyed that. I want you to stay tuned for next week, because we're going to continue this story, to continue this conversation as Mark and I discuss a couple more myths, and we talk a bit about our faith. And some of the myths that we believe in our skills as a leader into our different positions. So stay tuned for next week, where you'll be hearing part 2 with Mark Maxwell. Thank you so much. Once again, if you guys want to, you're welcome to head to our website, www.prairie.edu, to learn more about what we're doing as an institution. Of course, you can check us out on social media, stay up to date on everything that's happening. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.